Hello, welcome to the Midnight Hymn. This is a Virgin Black podcast. I'm Josh, and my co-host is...
I'm Ryan, big fan of both Josh and Eric and Virgin Black, so looking forward to...
Spoiler alert, you said who our other host is, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. Eric, introduce yourself.
Eric, in case that wasn't clear.
Okay, I mean, we're on episode 8. There's probably no reason to introduce ourselves, but here we are, nonetheless. So last time we mentioned we're probably going to be toggling back and forth between Virgin Black and Spine for a bit, but, you know, we're kind of going with the flow. It'll be what it'll be. Que sera, sera. I think that's a famous lyric from Virgin Black song. So today we're talking about one of my favorites, which is, well, as you can see, this is A Poet's Tears of Porcelain. And why this one? I kept pitching this one just because it was very meaningful to me for a very long time. And as a result, it still is very meaningful to me. It was so meaningful, in fact, that I spent hundreds of hours making a sculpture all about it. And then I tried to give it to the band Virgin Black when they came through Seattle. And there's a whole big story around this. Should I just tell that story real quick here?
Be a good place to start.
Yeah. It's a tragedy in 2 parts, maybe 3. So they were coming through Seattle. This is 2007 probably. I made this big sculpture, which I will be showing on the screen now. Now, this thing is 4 feet tall and made of heavy materials. It probably weighed 20, 30 pounds. But then to keep it safe, I built a box for it, a big like coffin out of lumber. And so like the whole thing was, I don't know, it had to be like at least 50 or 60 pounds. Just absolutely bonkers and very naive of me to think that they could just like throw this in their luggage. I guess in my mind, I thought, they're like transporting instruments and stuff. You just throw it in on that pile of stuff. Little did I know how scrappy and shoestring budget the whole tour had to be by necessity, coming all the way from Australia. I was actually putting a lot of stress on them by accident, and I feel bad for that. I don't know I'm sure I apologized at some point, but for any of you in the band listening now, I apologize for for the stress I must have put on you, because here's this huge super fan who's like, I spent all this time on this thing. Take it with you.
They're so upset. That's why they haven't released a new album in a long time, Josh.
That must have been it. Yeah. They haven't toured the U.S. since. I can only blame myself. Yeah. So what ended up happening is they tried to take it with them. They found out to get like just the shipping to get it on the airplane with them back to Australia was going to be a huge financial burden that they had no way of paying for. So it ended up hanging out at their label at the time. Was it The End?
Yeah, it was The End Records. Yeah.
Okay. So it ended up living in New York. They had to leave it there with the idea that eventually they could, the label would ship it to them or whatever. And it ended up sitting there for years. I was not in a place where I could financially afford the several $100s it was going to cost to ship it. When I finally did have enough money, I was like, okay, I didn't have enough money to get it to Australia. So I was like, just ship it back to me. I'll cover the expenses. It turns out they had reused the custom built box that I made for it. So it ended up coming back to me in like a chintzy cardboard box, and it was just smashed to bits when it got back to me. Tragedy upon tragedy. And in the decades since, I've always been thinking, man, I just need to, I know so much more about materials, processes, sculptures. I could make one that's half the size, that weighs, 90% less, and just ship it to them. And I will at some point. That is my goal. Anyway, that is a very long-winded but interesting story about a fan who loves a band and tried to make something for them and failed. So
you're definitely going to be showing the pictures, right?
Yeah.
I saw in the notes, like it's a beautiful piece of art, and so I can't wait.
Yeah, the thing that struck me about the song at that time in my life was that I was going through a personal tragedy and a lot of stress and a lot of sadness, and really found a place in my evangelical church where there was a lot of worship, and that had a lot of like meaningful connection to me. And this is I would argue their least ambiguous song. I mean, this is essentially like, I don't know, you could cut out maybe 2 or 3 words and it could be a song that would be played at, at a mega church or something, if the music was completely different. So
I was about to say, the
Lyrically.
state of mega churches is so deplorable right now. I doubt this would be given the time of day.
Yes,
it's too genuine.
no slight to the band for making a beautiful worship song. But the point being, like, it is clearly doing a thing. There's still ambiguity in it, but to me at the time, it was just crystal clear. It was a crystallization of what I needed. And so I just find a lot of beauty in it, and I'm still incredibly moved just by the music ship of it, the tones, it's just very delicious. Anyway, I've talked a lot. If anyone wants to hear more about the sculpture, let me know, and I could tell you all the deep symbolism of it, but I don't want to keep going. So,
I think we do need to talk about that. The sculpture. I think it's worth exploring. Maybe not right now. We haven't gotten to the song yet. So, but as the session unpacks, I think that's a great piece of art.
Oh yeah, that's
I'd
a
love
good
to hear
point.
Your thoughts on it.
Yeah, because this is kind of a lens into how I'm interpreting things. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's dive into the song. Let's all listen to it and get back to you.
As tears again meet my cheek, to your knees I cling. Oh, most merciful one, show your was I not bruised? Have you not heard the dance to silence? But your soul I hear.
Wow. Man, I've listened to that song, I don't know, 20 times over the past week. It still hits me so hard every time. I
It's a
don't know
really
what it is.
powerful one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, clearly this is a song that really moves you, Josh. From the time you and I reached out, like this just holds a sacred spot in your heart and your life stories. Somehow it's relevant to me as well, but probably not in the same way. And so I'm interested in hearing more, and as well as you, Eric, on this one, because it's really. It's overtly, like you said, Josh, it's disambiguous, or not ambiguous.
I was just checking who wrote the lyrics on this one. So these.
Does Siska write some of the lyrics too?
Yeah, so here the lyrics are attributed to Seska and the music to London and Seska. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to. This is one of those songs that causes so many directions that my brain and my soul and my heart wants to go, that I'm it's shutting me down. It's causing me to be (parentheses) mute, as, as the lyrics state. Wow, so many things. Okay, Eric, I want you to talk for a long time after this, but I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace and a little bit of space here. So, okay, I'm going to go in a bunch of directions. One, as an artist, what this speaks to me and how this spoke to me at the time and how it continues to speak to me to this day, even though I'd say my ontology of reality has shifted considerably. I think I can use these words with full conviction still to this day. And that is that this is a reflection of the divine being channeled through an individual human to other humans. And that's what I was trying to express with this piece, is you have the divine up here, that the tears are, to me, symbolic. These porcelain tears, these tears that are perfect. That is kind of our conception of the porcelain, just pure white light. They're not generated from the individual. They are flowing from somewhere. And so I kind of have here the artist as a chalice, as a receptacle for that sort of inspiration, whatever that may be, for these emotions. And then they are coming out of the eyes into these cupped hands that are offering this meaning making of the world, of our experience, to other people. That's what I was trying to express through this. The fact that it is backed by a mirror, it creates this illusion of a round chalice, right? The head is the chalice receiving the divine. But the point of it being backed by a mirror, besides creating that kind of fun illusion, is for the viewer of it to see themselves in it. Sadly, you can't see that in a photograph of it, but if you're seeing this in live, you would see yourself here as well. So, wow, so that's a lot of rambling, kind of like explaining where I was coming from with this piece and why it was so meaningful to me as an artist. I felt like, okay, this is like...
It's a mirror. Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It's impossible to photograph a mirror well.
I thought it was like a 3D piece, which this obviously was before 3D printing. But when I just look at the pictures, I didn't realize it's a mirror. But now that it's a mirror, I can see. It's a reflection. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because obviously I know it very well, but yeah, I could see how from photographs you want to get that. So, anyway, yeah, that was a lot. Now I need other people to talk for a while I cool down.
Yeah, that was really. I really liked what you said about the divine going through, like, the person. It made me think of it's probably been about 10 years ago now. It was when I was still stationed in Cuba. And I had a dream of kind of like this beam of light, and then, like, either stones or like they were more like glass, like, stacked within this beam, and I kind of had this understanding of like the light was kind of the divine and how much that passes from one stone or almost like sea glass to the next part is, kind of dependent on how much we kind of let that divine light through, whether it's going through our own experiences and passing them on to someone else. So I don't know. Your imagery with that made me think of that. So
That's really cool.
I almost feel like this song, really, like, instrumentally and also just like the tone of everything, it's almost like a bridge from somber romantic to elegant and dying. It reminds me a lot of the songs on that and kind of their later stuff too. So that probably makes it my, I guess, favorite off this album.
Interesting.
Just based on that alone.
Yeah, I was going to note its context on the album, which is, it goes through, it's the conclusion of an arc, and it gets so dark through the album, like to the point where, they're talking about raping the Christ image, this dying, desiccating Christ image you're trapped with. And then, concluding up towards this just makes it all the more potent. One of Ryan's favorite words.
Yeah. I turned 50 in June, and I'm beyond the halfway mark, I presume. And if there's one thing I've landed on in my life, it's the beauty and the role of tears as a source or an agency of producing generative art. Grief, and the song starts off, and your artistic expression of it is all about tears as this sort of life force that's being transmuted. And I didn't really make the connection. I've always loved the way Virgin Black, and you call this out in your notes, Josh, the ways of God shriek out of tune, I whisper your name in the dark, on Whispers of Dead Sisters, where they're somehow being persecuted or made to believe that they're an heir, or they're a betrayer of God. That's being imbued upon them, and they go to this place of secrecy, and in that place of secrecy, there's either tears or there's a song that they hear, and I've always really related to that. I've always connected with that. That's a very powerful imagery for me, and it reinforces my sort of conviction that grief and connecting with grief, and there's no shortage of sorrow or grief in any of our lives. We don't think about it 24/7, but if I'm open to accessing it and transmuting it, this sort of divinity can be made manifest in sort of this sort of true self emerging in me. So anyway, I'm rambling for quite a bit, but the tears was a powerful construct that made me think of all this.
Yeah.
I love your use of the word transmutation. Makes me think of going back to alchemy.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It is sort of a fundamental concept, I think, in the human mind. Is this idea of changing one thing to another. Change is so inbuilt in all of us, and what we do. One of the beautiful things, speaking of that, like there's a dichotomy in tears, where you could have tears of joy and you could have tears of sorrow, and all sorts of other things. But
Tears of laughter. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really stuck out to me also in reviewing this song in depth was like all the emotions and expressions that are expressed in this song are personal experiences that I have experienced during deep worship. Tears of joy, immense feelings of peace, universal love, just a bottomless well, the fathomlessness of losing yourself from the the normal confines of trying to define a thing. so much of worship and praise music, and going back to the Psalms and stuff, is sort of a grasping at trying to put into words something that fundamentally cannot have words, that is wordless. I think that's there's some brilliance to the way this song ends, which is that it goes from it speaks to that fathomlessness, that inability to put into words. The final word is actually truncated. The final word is technically holiness. Rowan ends. Yeah. He gets to holy, and then descends and descends and descends, and he can't even get the ness out. You hear an inhale at the end. And then the final chorus is it is vocalized, but it is wordless. I just think that's such a brilliant, way to end this.
Dude, potent, man. I got to double down on that. I've made the same observation. I think his singing of holiness is the most powerful that I've ever heard in, 20 years of being, entangled in, the Christian worship scene of, the 90s and whatnot. I've never found anything that expresses with such potency. Sorry for it's getting silly.
No,
but,
it's good. You got to catch
It's so
this.
true, Josh. And you spoke to exactly what I had observed, which is you never hear the ness. It just sort of, it almost gets consumed by the awe and the beauty of what's being expressed, such that it has to be silenced or muted. It's freaking incredible, dude.
Yeah.
Your own singing is always so incredible. For the music nerds out there, the meter of the song, or the beats per minute, is around 130. So that gives it kind of a slower, more even pace than some of their more aggressive stuff, like the Drink the Midnight Hymn. It's just kind of just hitting you right in the face from the start. This kind of more I don't think a dirge is the right word I'm looking for, but kind of a more suitable ending, kind of slower paced. And then also seems to be an A minor key, which is kind of associated with tenderness, melancholy, sense of longing, which kind of goes in with this. He's kind of longing to connect with the divine and kind of have a deeper connection that he can heal from. I also think it's in, I was trying to count it out, I think it's in 6/8 time signature. It's definitely different than your 4/4.
Interesting. No, I had no idea. Huh.
I also like that the drums feel a little bit more natural on this. This song particularly, there's some parts of this album in particular where I don't love the drums as much, but I think on this one it fits a lot better, and it's kind of better placed. So appreciate that as well. The whole song's probably my favorite off this album.
Eric, you've had experience doing praise and worship in churches, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where I cut my teeth on performing. Just thinking about the other day, it's been so long since I've really done much performance stuff, but whether with one of my own bands or but that's kind of where it all started, is playing guitar and youth and the regular Sunday worship stuff.
Yeah, I'm curious about sort of your experience in that realm, and how it relates to this song, or does not relate. Like what are the compare and contrast there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's along the lines of what you were saying. Like the lyrics definitely, evoke that feeling of like coming before a divine force and kind of surrendering, giving up a sense of self. And he talks about falling dead, or like falling on the floor, and kind of that last sense of you'll see that in religious services where people are just on the floor, or they're
I've been there,
kneeling or whatever it is that they're doing, because it's just that outward physical manifestation of being like, this is where I need to be, this is where I need to figure out my shit, I guess. But I think the chord structure is kind of I don't want to say basic, but does remind me of that, where it's like it's not overly over the top. And yet you was saying that like there's a guitar solo that takes up most of the song. Like you don't find that in worship music as much. You know, that's such a prominent part of the song, and it's like outlining that chant part, which I love, the and then it's just building lead notes off of that. So I mean, I say that's a lot more interesting than a lot of the worship music I encountered, I guess. But
that whole guitar solo and it comes right after the lyric of "But a song I hear," and so they're sort of pivoting to trying to express musically this song that they hear, and this ought to be taught in the annals of mega churches and their sort of overly emotional, dramatized, culturally conditioned worship music that frankly I abhor today. I think it's it evokes awe in me, AWE, awe, and awe is an awesome thing. Like wonder and awe, like we need more of that. And so this song, I can't not listen to this song. I can't listen to this song and not experience some form of awe. That's really what this song does for me. It activates awe.
Yeah. And that's something that also, so the word sublime is the traditional definition of it, which is an awe that is tinged with bordering on fear or feelings of, I am insignificant in comparison to this thing that I'm beholding. And I think that's one of the things that this song is veering towards, that many worship songs fail to do, in the sense that they are all about our God is an awesome God, and it's very much like, here's our prescribed limitations, here's our theology, here is what we know about God, and these are the things that you're aiming at. This song very much is veering the other direction towards the sublime, in the sense that it is calling out very clearly fathomlessness, that immeasurelessness. There is not a way to define this or box it or limit it, and every attempt to do so is thwarted. I think that's kind of my big takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. It's kind of like the difference between, I don't know, I've kind of brought up before how I look at things, kind of three branches of spirituality: religion, mysticism, and magic. They're kind of three spokes of kind of the whole thing, but kind of the difference between, like what you were saying, like religion versus more of a mystical approach. It's so much of the worship music is more, it's just outlining a theology and lyrics that's very defined, very rigid, whereas this is kind of more just the experiential part of it, coming before spirit or soul, or whatever terms you want to use for something, or even just, my favorite term, infinite mind, and just coming before that to kind of figure out where you're going and figuring out what kind of healing you need to do. That's kind of what the song means to me, I suppose. Especially like that lyric was, "Water is sweet." Mm-hmm. Talking about the tears, definitely evokes like a sense of healing, or healing through expressing the pain, but giving that a place, so that person's suffering kind of becomes a conduit to divine intimacy and kind of his own personal rejuvenation.
One of the things, if you look up the lyrics to this song on the internet, you miss out. There's actually a lot of incorrect or lyrics for Virgin Black songs that are missing subtle little things, and they actually make a really big difference. But yes, Josh, this song has one such thing where it has a word in parentheses that you'll never find on Google searches, and it's during the phrase, all heavens bow in mute admiration. The word mute is in parentheses. You never hear it sung in the song. And I think that's just such a powerful part of my experience of this. Like, it didn't say all heavens bow in performative admiration, which is, which is what I feel like if this was, sort of evangelicalized, it's performative admiration. And I love the fact that it has that word mute in there. I think the other thing that really, when you apply a Christian lens to this song, I think you can miss some of the beauty in it. And in particular, was I not bruised? Have you not healed? They dance to silence. The prototypical way of looking at this is, Isaiah 53:5, and treating was I not bruised? Have you not healed? Through that interpretive lens. And I render no judgment. I think that is very intentional, and is a reference to Isaiah 53:5. But I'm curious what you guys think. I look at Was I Not Bruised is like Virgin Black, the artists that created this, like they've been damaged, they've been bruised by something or somebody. And so all three of those lines like form like a triangle. Was I not bruised? Have you not healed is looking to this divine entity, and then they dance to silence. I feel that line has always stumped me going back to my 20s, and now where I'm at in life, I think my perspective is the they is, the people that silence the oppressed, the people that I think of like sexual abuse cover-ups of, we see all the time on the news in America, people that dance to silence, they maintain secrecy. And this notion of dancing is, they're activated, they're celebrating, they're reveling in silence. And so I'm curious how you guys sort of understand that phrase, they dance to silence. And then, of course, the fourth endpoint is but a song I hear. I think that's a really powerful sort of section in this song.
So yeah, this is also the hardest part of the song for me to internalize, connect with. So Virgin Black does this a lot. This is a common motif where they will sort of switch tenses or switch voices, like who is saying what is kind of unclear. There are clearly multiple ways you could read that. Sometimes they will, Rowan will use a different vocal styling to, signpost this. Sometimes it will be of a guest vocalist, and yeah, and this one, I did kind of see this as an answer, a call and answer where show me your mercy, oh merciful one, show me your glory. And then in response, another voice says, was I not bruised? Have you not healed? And that is, very, very clearly the Christ archetype, the Isaiah reference there. And then it's like, I don't know, does it go back to, is it still this entity saying they dance to silence? But I hear a song, right? So yeah, I'm fumbling over this because I don't really have a way to process it. I do think your approach is really interesting, Ryan.
There's other reaction videos on the internet, on this song. Not many, but there's one that's about 45 minutes, and this particular verse is always comes up is, kind of the one that people, sort of wrestle with in terms of the ambiguity.
We'll have to post a link to that. Yeah, I wish I would have known that. I would have checked that out. Although maybe it would have muddied my my pristine impression.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I guess it's they dance to silence. I guess he's maybe talking. I kind of defer more to what you were saying, Ryan, but I also think maybe he's expressing that other people don't get the same experience that he's coming to, like I said, reaching for a divine conduit. They're going to a different, they don't have a song in them. They have, they're just kind of going through the motions and whatever dark things, are bringing up for them pleasure in life instead of actually dealing with their own pain in a meaningful way. And, which is kind of where I get from this whole song is just, like I said, rejuvenation, trying to heal. Whereas so many people, like we see world leaders on the world stage that, they wouldn't be the way they were if they'd like gone to therapy a couple times or something. Like they're just
got hugged more
so
as a child.
so beyond anything, and now we all have to deal with their crap because they can't deal with their own internal shit, I guess. So
Yeah, I usually have a visceral wanting to push against us and them narratives. They are bad, we are good. They can't hear this secret thing, we can.
right.
There's obvious reality to that dichotomy that exists all over the world, all over the place, in completely benign ways. Like my kids can't appreciate a lot of things I appreciate, and vice versa. And when I listen to death metal, it sounds completely different to most people. And most people in the world, when they hear any heavy music, it activates like anger or anxiety or stress responses, right? And I get like the opposite of that. So there are all these sort of different wavelengths that people operate on. And so I'm trying to put this in that category of like a judgment-free sort of, and it's just because that's my personality. Like they is not necessarily a denigrated group or bad people or whatever. That may be the intent of these lyrics, but that's not the way I embody this or intuit it. I intuit it as there are different wavelengths of reality. Some people are hearing them, some people are not. Some people are misinterpreting them. Am I the one misinterpreting it? Quite just as likely. So
Exactly.
yeah. Do you have any other musical notes or things to throw in here?
I would say the piano part is really cool. I mean, I always love anything related to piano. It really gave me kind of a sense of like surveying a battlefield. This is the last song on the album. Like everything's kind of done. Like you're just looking over like all of everything that's happened, the destruction, and kind of like, dealing with the sorrow and distraughtness of that. And I don't know why, but the imagery from the game Expedition 33 came up, which there's a lot of loss in that game. I haven't made it that far into it, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no spoilers.
But,
I'm
as far as I've gotten, that's kind of the gist of it. It's like this reoccurring yearly sorrow, but they're still pushing on. They're still pushing forward to the goal.
Ryan, you posted an interesting quote from Seska. Could you read that and give me some reflections?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the very beginning of the episode, the meaning that this song had for you, and when you look at the broader dynamic of certainly you and I in terms of our age group and the versions of ourselves at that age, this song always stood out because it was unambiguous, and at that time it meant to me in my 20s that it was safe, that okay, I can now stamp them as a Christian band.
It was like an anchor keeping that in the sacred territory, right?
All the other songs are like mysterious and weird, and I don't know what to do with, and I wanna treat them as safe. But if I can't find a Christian stamp somewhere, then I've got to distance myself. And this song was that warm blanket.
Let me add a quick little really funny injection there. The band Joy Electric made an entire album to address this problem they were dealing with. I think it was literally called Christian Songs.
Oh my God.
Because they were too ambiguous before. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah, please continue.
So anyway, Seska, and again, this is like 24 years ago. Take it with a grain of salt as far as whether it represents Seska today.
But it's contemporaneous with this work we're analyzing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for that clarification, Josh. The interviewer asks, you're a Christian band. Can you tell us, if at all, your religious beliefs play into your music, particularly these albums? Seska's answer was, I think, powerful. She says, I feel compelled to broaden the parameters by saying that I am more of an agnostic under the banner of Christianity. That means that while I have an unerring belief in the basic ideals of Christianity, within those wide parameters I am searching. This is not out of any sense of being unfulfilled, but more being born from a need to be constantly genuine.
Yeah.
So I love that answer. Like, I'm like, that's the type of seeker I want to be, not a finder that's in possession of the truth, but somebody who's got an internal posture of constantly pursuing attunement and authenticity. So I just love that answer.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Really kind of pushes you beyond the boundaries of being like, oh, here's my theology, here's my bullet point list of things, you know, being the seeker first rather than the I don't know, rigid theologian or rigid minister.
Yeah.
The Pharisee, whatever term you want to throw in there.
It certainly resonates with me. As you know, I consider myself a Christian in that I am seeking to follow Christ to the extent that I understand Christ. I don't have faith in specific doctrines or specific religious claims or whatever. I leave that to the unknowingness, and it's okay to not know. In fact, it's okay to use a Bayesian approach and say, what is the likelihood of this, that, or the other, until you land on something where you're like, absolutely not, this cannot be possible, therefore it's rejected. And so, yeah, I definitely resonate with this idea that, like, very wide parameters, as in, I'm just doing my best, man. Like, I'm inspired by Christ. I respect the role that you know, Jesus, the mythology of Jesus, however real or not real it is, played in my life, how important and vital it was at certain points in my life, especially in regards to like this moment where this song hit me when I needed it in the way that I needed. And yeah, to that degree, I mean, that's what caused me to have this outpouring of creativity and make a sculpture about it, and you know, kind of redefine it as it hit me. So
that's two pieces of art you've done that's sort of been in this tribute or creative generative arc related to Virgin Black. We had the piece from In the Kiss of God's Mouth of the person sort of trying to escape this hole that was sucking it in, and then the Poet's Tears of Porcelain, which obviously you'll be showing or have already shown on this episode. Anything else?
There is another a piece that I made. I'm trying to remember if it was attached to a particular song. You know, if it comes up in context in a future episode, I'll share that too.
I don't have the artistic gifts that you have, but I've been.
I disagree. Your writing is gorgeous, is beautiful, is soulful, is impactful.
I've done some writing, and at the risk of coming across as like a parasocial, fan of Virgin Black, their work has been profoundly meaningful to me. Not in a fanboy kind of way, but in a soul mending kind of way. And so I've done a lot of integration work, and for people that are big fans of the band, you can see a lot of those themes woven in. Starting with the transmutation of grief. That's why your art like really moved me, Josh. I'd heard about that piece, but not until I saw it. It's analogous to a lot of the writing that I've done that I know you've read. So this notion of grief and how we process it.
Yeah, I think I still remember what was it? The Bleed Zao post where you posted that originally to the forums that we used to be
back in the day. Yeah,
that really takes me. That was what I thought when I was looking at it again. I was like, that really takes me back to the old forums and how we originally met.
Yeah, Zao, another great band. So I guess as a way to wrap this up, I would just maybe say that maybe a theme of our conversation here has been the generative nature of profound art. And I think, one of the testimonies to any art, whether it's a great novel or a scriptural text or a sculpture or whatever, is how it inspires the culture around it. And then that, iterations occur upon that idea, and they keep, going down through the ages. So yeah, I would say our little, 3-person puddle here has all had, profound ripples from this piece of art, and yeah, just testimony to the brilliance of this work.
Speaking of which, we usually end with a recommendation. You guys have any artistic recommendations?
Oh, I would say the new Chevelle album. I've only just started listening to it, but the whole thing is just pretty in your face. I like it so far.
Yeah, I listened to that song you posted, and that yeah, they're very clear. they're usually super ambiguous. Like, I could never tell what they're talking about, but but that one
Right.
song is very clear. I like it. Yeah, this is an age, I feel like this is a period in at least Western culture where ambiguity seems to be falling away, and a lot of just the raw, impulsive, the id of cultures from every direction is really coming out, and it's interesting to see that manifest in art.
Yeah, for sure. And I did go through and try to find like a tarot card, or I guess this one's technically a oracle card, emotional withdrawal. Just something that made me think of the song itself. But yeah, kind of just has to do with pulling back from like a situation that's draining you and taking time to heal, which was, I kind of picked it on the imagery, but just like reading about it, I was like, yeah, that really sounds kind of like the song. And reminds me of when I was stationed in Cuba, and sometimes I would just go to the beach just to meditate and clear my head and kind of think of kind of the next step in a journey. So
I got 2 shout outs. One is to a kind of a dear Virgin Black fan and community member. He actually wrote the Spine article review that was really well done. I've mentioned him on previous. Zsolt from Hungary. He's just released his second album. His band is Dark Wave Metal. It's actually really cool. Like he has a YouTube video. We'll put his YouTube video in the link. Cool. It's totally different. Like, I really dig it. It's just creative. So I'm supporting him. I purchased it on Bandcamp. Check it out. Billie and Paul Horde have published a book called You Contamination, and it's a powerful look at sort of society and disgust, and how this sort of disgust and purity binary it's very insightful, and I think a piece of art. And so I'll link that, and I mentioned also because I've been in conversations with Billie about having her join if we get to that point. So. 2 pieces of art we're checking out.
I'll second that one. I've read a lot of her stuff, and it's really profound. She did one on C.S. Lewis, and
yes,
and
she's a C.S. Lewis scholar. In the same way,
we're
Virgin Black scholars. Like she knows C.S. Lewis very well.
Yeah, it's super interesting stuff. Also, the disgust thing ties into one of my favorite books, which is called The Righteous Mind. Should that be my recommendation? Okay, I'll do 2 little recommendations. The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, Why People Are Divided, something along those lines. But it speaks to moral foundation theory, which is this idea that there are 6 or 7 basic foundational principles that all humans have to some degree or another, and disgust purity is one of those, and certain psychologies are very highly tuned to be disgusted by many things, and then other personalities less so, right? So it really explains a lot of the cultural divide where things that have been ingrained from childhood to disgust us, trigger pretty much irrational reactions towards people, sadly. So yeah, great recommendation there. I think the other thing I want to call out, I think I mentioned Igorrr before as a band that's very super creative, super eclectic, all over the place. They just dropped their latest album called Amen. That's Igorrr with 3 R's. So
3. Oh, that's fancy.
It's that aggressive.
I think I'm gonna put Virgin Black Scholar on my resume for my next application I put out there.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm
I'll
getting a
get
tattoo.
the job then.
Yeah, I will die with that'll be on my tombstone.
Yeah, we might as well start a university and sell diplomas. Apparently, that's a thing you could do now. So,
and I predict there will be Spine news
Oh.
by the end of the year. Yes, I don't want to peddle and gossip, but there was a clue. If anyone follows Instagram, buried in some correspondence, I'll channel my inner Rowan and Seska, and I'll leave it cryptic at that. But if people hunt, there's definitely some activity going on.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it there. And yeah, we'll be back whenever we can be back with another one for sure.
Respond to our poll, everyone. If you watch this,
there's a poll.
Vote. We get very little engagement, and that's okay. We don't expect it. But you've got a poll that's just waiting for you to hit a button and pick your choice on which direction we want to go.
That's right. Calls to action are fantastic for social media. That's what I've heard. All right.
Oh, yes. All right.
Absolutely.
Catch y'all later. Bye.
Peace.
See ya.